So for a lot of deep house songs, you have your standard deep house sounding bass. And for this one, I pretty much used mostly that deep house sound, but then a little of the, I'll call the disclosure sound. So here's the regular deep house sound. Okay, it just sounds like a deep house bass. But then on top of that, you have this other layer that gives it a little bit more texture and makes it sound a little bit more melodic. So at the end of the last video, I played this for you guys. And you can tell with this preset, it sounds very, very disclosure. I mean, that's a disclosure MIDI thing. So, but the tone of the bass is extremely disclosure-y. It has a lot of extra tones that aren't that fundamental single root note. So what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to give you a quick 4 steps to be able to make a disclosure sound that's not just a deep house bass. Be advised, this is as close to knob twisting as I'm ever going to get. So first you want to have 3 oscillators, and your second one is going to be up 7, your third one is going to be down 7. The reason is that's where a lot of our melodic content is going to come from. Give this a listen and you'll see this sounds nothing like it. Partially because when you have a perfect fifth and a perfect fourth added on top of your oscillator, if they're all the same volume, it's hard to really tell what the main note is. So you just turn these down a little bit and let's see how that sounds. Okay, sure, a little bit better. That's step 1. Sounds nothing like it, but we'll get there. Step 2 is to try to find 3 wavetables individually that sound kind of soft. So you can mess with spectrum if you want. That'll make any one of these sound soft, but let's just go. I'm not even going to look. I don't even care. Let's just try looking for some of these that sound a little soft. Sure, a little soft. I don't know, something in this column. Ooh, very soft. Nice. And number 3. Let's look over here. Annoying. Sucks. There we go. So here's, I wasn't very picky with these. I just got 3, the first ones that came that sounded a little bit soft. Again, still sounds nothing like what we needed to. So then the last step is really just do a basic envelope that gives you kind of a pluck sound on a low pass filter. So you layer that on top of a sub. And you get something that's pretty close to a disclosure bass. Keep in mind, you also have 2 extra inserts to help you out with, using a frequency shifter. That'll give you more melodic content. You can beef it up with classic tube and dimension expander. Do whatever you want. But overall, you just get this perfect fifth and perfect fourth, low pass filter. God, just beautiful. So that's how you get close to that disclosure bass sound. So for number 2, we're going to talk about a little bit of a problem with deep house, and that's the sound design department. With dubstep and with trap and electro house, you can make as loud of a sound as you want, and from track to track, it's going to be a different primary drop sound. With deep house, that's not really the case. You have one sound that really drives the genre forward. Everybody hopefully does some different things around it, but you could get away very much so with just one deep house bass patch and call it a day. That's not going to really help you distinguish yourself as a deep house artist or as a single deep house track, so we want to have some macros set up and ready to go to help change it a little bit from track to track. This first one I called Rugrats because it kind of sounds like the Rugrats tone. And what I did for that is I just stacked 2 frequency shifters, one on top of the other. You can see at some parts it emphasizes the lower end. See, it sounds like it adds some lower end there. And then others, it accentuates the top part. And that's good for a deep house top layer or just for like a single bass. So being able to change this around in different positions and then either, again, use that as a layer or use that as the primary bass, it's going to give you some variety, and that's good. The second macro, because it's important to have not just one variety macro, you want to get a couple, is as simple as it gets. You literally just take this macro, throw it on one of your oscillators, hopefully not your main one, and go up 5 semitones. And that's it. Listen to what that sounds like. So it gives you that melodic content that we're talking about with our bass. But that, along with our curveball, should give you, at least 10 different tones that are fundamentally different. Just aiming these at different positions is going to give you a slightly different tone every time. If you take that a couple steps farther and make your other macros just as interesting, you'll be set with one patch that will give you a lot of different tones. Not just one single patch that's like, oh, it's just the one tone. That's it. That kind of sucks. So avoid that. Get some variety. That's number 2. So for the third topic, we're going to talk about the kind of tone that you set up in your oscillators to go into your filters regarding deep house basses. So we have 2 deep house bass patches. Here's the one on the right and one on the left. So they'll both work just fine for deep house. So what's the difference between what's going in here and what's going in here into our filters? If I turn both of our filters off, or I guess all 4, listen to the differences. Left. Okay, a lot heavier, a lot more distorted. And right. A lot more chill, like that first one that we made at the beginning of this video. What's the difference between the two, and why bother with each kind? Well, if I turn the filters back on, they'll obviously get us back into deep house mode. You can tell when I shave off frequencies from this left one, I'm still left with a little bit more grit. And that's like the classic disclosure-y sound. So this one on the right, though, when I'm taking off sounds from not very much frequency content, you get a much deeper sound. Deep, higher. So that's first of all going to give you some variety, just having different kinds of sounds going into each filter section. But the real trick is over here in macro number 3. When I have an LFO, and I've got it in 5 different spots here, but really it's just based around this filter. It's opening up a little bit and allowing us to hear our original sound. So this could very well be used as like a light extension of whatever you've got going on in your deep house song. It's close enough, and it's not too much more energetic like a gnarly dubstep-y wub. Like that. It just gives you a little extra. Over here, though, if I were to do that, you would have a lot grittier of a tone that might not fit into deep house, though. So on the one hand over here, we have a nicer deep house high end because we did use a little bit harsher of our oscillators over here. And on the other hand, we have a deeper tone that might not sound very disclosure-y, but it will allow us to open up that filter without having to face ridicule for making it sound like a dubstep song and not a deep house song. So hopefully when you do the steps that we did in our first topic, the 0, 7, and 7, you can make that decision. Do you want softer sounding oscillators to make it a little easier, or do you want some harsher ones that might give you this kind of tone? And that'll make you one step closer towards being disclosure. Another side note, if you do decide to go for that higher end sound with a lot of texture up here, as is common with disclosure-y stuff, make sure you have a sub underneath it. If you do have a tone that isn't very high-end, you'll be just fine without a sub because it's already pretty subby. But if you just focus on that high end, it's obviously not a bass anymore. So make sure that you either focus on just the high end and get a sub underneath it, or only stick to one patch and make sure it's low enough to sustain a deep house song. So that's what I got for you guys today. As always, if you have any mastering requests, send me an email at ryan@occstudios.com, and I will be back soon.